I'm Tyler Austin from Gungnir Strategic. Thank you so much for watching. I'm joined again by my friend Rob over at Dice Show Tactical. He has a YouTube channel, Dice Show Tactical. He's a 20 plus year SWAT guy. He knows what he's talking about. So I'll just let Rob go ahead and introduce himself just in case you don't know who he is. So, Rob, just give a quick rundown on who you are and what you do for everyone watching.
My name is Rob. I'm a 22 and a half year law enforcement officer in a large metropolitan area in the Midwest. I've been a SWAT officer since 2013 and a SWAT trainer for the last couple of years. Currently, I work at the police academy and I'm a firearms instructor. I run the rifle program for our department, so I spend most days on the rifle range just teaching CQB and rifle skills and that sort of thing.
Nice.
So,
Range theatrics, right? It's kind of a term that Pat McNamara kind of coined. Maybe he stole it for someone else, but
no, I love Patty Mac. No,
Yeah,
that's who I got it from. That's who I got it from.
he's a fantastic guy, fantastic instructor. So, I'll give him credit for the term. Maybe
Oh, absolutely.
I don't know, but he gets credit for it. Range theatrics. So basically, silly things that you see on the range that really have no application, or
Yeah,
at the very least,
all
it's
that.
just silliness. What's kind of things that you would consider? I mean, I have plenty of things I'd consider range theatrics, but you teach them
Well,
the right
I think you got to kind of understand the history of it a little bit. So I think it was 2002, 2003. Magpul Art of the Tactical Carbine came out, and that was a Chris Costa and
Travis Haley.
Travis Haley, and that was the shit. Okay, that was the Bible. That was, they're doing a lot of cool things with rifles that a lot of people haven't seen before. A lot of it was very pragmatic. A lot of it made very good sense. A lot of it is still very good training.
And then you have the mag flips.
Right. But some of it seemed like, well, okay, a little bit of theatrics. And sometimes I think there was some of everybody's training on flat ranges, and they wanted to make the use of that flat range space more, I guess, applicable to real world, or what they thought would be applicable to real world. So you started seeing a lot more action beyond just the handling of the weapon and the putting the holes in the paper. You saw a lot of bounding overwatch, suppressive fire, a lot of moving while reloading, use of cover, a lot of scans, a lot of switching from kneeling and standing and coming back on different sides of cover and stuff like that. So a lot more dynamic movement, a lot more athletic movement, which I put all that stuff under kind of like the walk and chew bubblegum category.
Yeah.
Like, you're not necessarily going to do it, but I want to give you multiple tasks to do. First, I teach you a simple task, load the rifle and shoot.
Yeah.
And now I want you to do that while being distracted with other tasks, because in law enforcement, we have to do multiple things at once, right? Talk on the radio, run to cover, communicate with people, and also theoretically handle this gunfight situation. So under the walk and chew bubblegum context, I don't have a problem with people always moving while they reload. The issue comes up so that was like 2003, 2004, right?
Yeah.
And there was a lot of different instructors that were almost like competing to be cooler than everybody else. Like, oh, we've taken it to a next level. Like, first we're going to scan. Well, then the next guy's going to do, I'm going to scan and then I'm going to check my six. And then somebody else was like, we're going to scan, check six, and do a 360 bubble scan. We're going to look up and down and all around, because that makes us cooler, right? That makes us more marketable to everybody, because we're more tactical, because we do more range theatrics. It got a little out of hand.
Yeah.
Well, then there was kind of a revolution of body cameras. So now body cameras are absolutely everywhere. And now we have like tons and tons of footage of real cops getting in real gunfights on the street.
Yeah.
Right. So we've been doing these range theatrics for 20 years. And I'm a student of the real world body camera stuff. I watch it every day. Yeah. And I'm watching these videos and I'm like, okay, where is it?
Yeah.
Where's the movement while we reload? Where's people coming back out at a kneeling position? Where's all this movement? Where's all these scans? Where's all the bubble scans? I don't see them.
Yeah.
Where's all the cool reloads? You don't see them. So I try to focus on what we actually see on the street when it actually happens. So I focus a lot on use of cover.
Yeah.
Because that's it. I mean, statistically, according to FBI, whoever finds cover first wins for the most part. Unless it's an ambush, then it is what it is.
Yeah.
But it's hard to train for those. Do people move in gunfights? Yeah, but they're usually running to cover.
Yeah.
That's what is motivating them to move, or they're being ambushed and they're just moving while they're being ambushed. Law enforcement's gunfights very rarely go to a reload. And when they do, I don't ever see anybody just, oh, it's time to reload my pistol, so I'm just going to run while I do it for shits and gigs. I never see that, ever. I never see officers take a knee in a gunfight unless cover dictates it.
Yeah.
So if they're behind a car or let's say a fire hydrant or something low, then yeah, I'll see an officer go to a kneel. If they're doing what we call surround and call out, where they start at that kneeling position so someone can come over the top of them and they're calling a suspect out of the house or whatever, yeah, I'll see them go to a kneel. Yeah. I don't ever see people go to a kneel halfway through a gunfight. I see low highs. I don't ever see high lows.
Yeah.
And high low, in my opinion, is stupid. I think we need to get rid of it because the person going low, going around the side, is not really using cover because they're going around the person who's already using cover, and they're kind of creating an obstruction for that person behind them. Theoretically, you can leave it out with it so they can roll out, but that's still an obstruction behind them.
Yeah.
Also, the second you take a knee, you are limiting your movement. You're anchoring in place. I know Travis Haley's a big fan of athletic kneeling, so you can still peek out and in, but that's not realistic. That's not modern law enforcement. That's not what I mean. Could I do it when I was 25? Yeah. Can I do it when I'm 45? Hell no.
Yeah. Also, a lot slower. It's going to be a lot slower.
Right. Yeah. And also, I think under life and death stress, and this is just my theory, everybody knows when they take a knee, they're anchored in place.
Yeah. Your movement is significantly limited.
Right. And they know in their midbrain feels, oh crap, I'm under threat of death here. I'm scared. I'm not going to anchor myself in one place. I want to reserve the ability to run like hell. Yeah. I found in simunitions recently, this is something I observed with my last recruits, they were trying to utilize our training. If you peek around cover and you come, you got to do a reload and you come back out at a different level. Yeah. That's what we teach them, right? Yeah. Theoretically, it's a good idea in theory. But in practice, I would watch how they would be engaging a bad guy. They would have to do a reload. Well, in the interim, while they're doing that reload, that bad guy would move, would hit an angle on them. Yeah. Well, then they would pop back out at a kneel, and now the bad guy's over here, and their cover is oriented this way. So they have to adjust their cover, right, to that where the bad guys move to, but they can't because they're kneeling, and they can't move and do that dynamic movement. And then they start taking up rounds on the side. Whereas if they just stayed standing, they could easily shift their feet and move that cover to that new angle. Yeah. So it's contextual,
Of course. Yeah, you
and
see
most
that.
Go ahead.
You see
most law enforcement gunfights are at close range, and therefore the likelihood of that person hitting an angle on you is much greater than them staying in a fixed position really far away, where maybe it would be a good idea to come out at a different height.
Yeah. You're seeing that a lot now, and it's within still the same kind of context, if you will, but you're seeing that a lot in CQB now. I've been seeing that a lot where people are kneeling at thresholds, like while they're pieing. Like they'll take a knee and they'll start pieing out from a kneel.
Yeah, right.
You're seeing that a lot, and people are copying that because they see some special operations teams doing it supposedly, and that's, to me, that's something I see a lot, and I very much disagree with it because for the main reason being what you already talked about, that limits your movement. So if you need to bail or you need to collapse your angle because that guy's pushing a deeper angle on you, you've now limited your movement significantly by kneeling. But also another big reason a lot of people don't think about is when you go to a kneel, you're replacing your chest, which, in your context and obviously a military context, whatever, you're probably wearing plates. You're replacing your plates with your face. And not a good idea, especially at that kind of range. So other things in terms of range theatrics, like what are some other things that you see that you just sit there and it just makes you shake your head in terms of what you see doing in the range?
A lot of the moving while reloading, I think, is contextual. I think if you have to move, you're going to move because you're going to be scared. You're going to be running to cover. Popping out of different levels of cover, not a fan of it. Let's work both sides of cover. I'm not against that, but I never see it in law enforcement. Everybody's always on that same side. And here's my issue with it is, so theoretically, I'm on a strong side piece of cover and I'm standing, I'm engaging a target, and then I got to do a reload. So I go do my reload. But I'm going to pop out on the other side. Let's say it's an oak tree. Now I'm going to pop out on the support side where I'm going to give up more of this shoulder, and I'm going to be in a shooting position that isn't as strong because it's my non-dominant. I'm still shooting dominant side, but it's my non-dominant side I'm shooting around. Am I really going to give that up just to theoretically surprise the person I'm shooting at because the last place they saw me was over there? I don't think it's overly hard for them to go, oh, he's here now.
Yeah.
So what that little bit that there takes them to adjust, I've given up a lot of, safety on my part using that support side of that piece of cover. And also, I just don't see it. Most officers, when they get in a gunfight, they if they're in a good position, they stay in that position. Yeah. As long as it's strong, they stay there. Now, if it becomes compromised because somebody gets an angle or whatever and they can retreat, they move to somewhere else. But I've never seen them, hey, I had a good spot, but they know I'm here now, so I'm going to try something else. Yeah. I don't think your mind is processing that. I just don't.
Yeah.
And so that would definitely be a range theatric. A lot of the scans, some of the things people say, the conversations about, we used to do this thing where it's like, cover, like if I had to reload, I would yell cover and someone else would yell clear, and that would be my permission to take a knee and reload, and then I'd say ready and they would say up. Yeah. And it was a fun drill, but it wasn't, who does that?
You don't see that.
No. Never. So like if I'm reloading, real world, if I got to reload, I'd say loading. I don't wait for permission. I just let somebody know loading, and I don't scream it.
Yeah.
So if somebody next to me, hey, loading. Then when I'm up, hot. Just so they know, hey, I'm back up.
Yeah. Or they just hear you shooting. That's another one too.
Correct.
Hey, he's shooting. He must have reloaded. Wow.
Exactly. It's more practical. But I think a lot of that, once again, is just, back in the early 2000s, a lot of instructors were just trying to be cooler than the other guy. And we do this on our range. So that's why our flat range is cooler. I think flat ranges are, there's weapons training and there's gunfight training. Yeah. Okay. And weapons training is what you do on a flat range. Yeah. Gunfight training is what you do with simulations. Yeah. And I think people try to do gunfight training on the range and on a flat range, and it just doesn't really translate well. And we start doing range theatrics that don't really make any sense. Why don't we just focus on the fundamentals, focus on what we actually see in real world situations, focus on using the weapons, how we see them being used effectively. And then we'll cover the other stuff in gunfight training.
Yeah. What do you think of, like, personally, I would consider things such as like a speed reload, quote unquote, as range theatrics. Like people are super, super obsessed with how fast they can reload. It's an Instagram thing too. Like, I'll look at my 1.25 second reload. And the reality is, I'm sure, I think you said this in our last talk too, but I've had the same thing. I've had the opportunity to ask a lot of people who've both in law enforcement and military, like, hey, was there ever a situation where you looked back and went, if I took 1 second longer to reload my rifle or pistol, I wouldn't be here right now? I've never had a single instance where a guy said, yes, if I took a second longer, I would be dead.
Yeah. Has anybody been saved by having an open top magazine pouch rather than a covered one?
Yeah, seriously.
I don't know. It's is the guy that does a 1.25 second reload really that much better than the guy who does a 1.35?
Yeah. I think that's one of those things. Competitive shooting has brought a lot of good things to the industry for like more practical, combative type stuff. It has, in terms of especially like speed and accuracy, because those are what those guys do. But I think it's brought a lot of unrealistic stuff too, because for them, their opponent is the timer. So having a faster reload absolutely benefits them. That's how they win competitions, depending on the specific type of competition they're doing, of course. But the reality in terms of practical, combative application, I'm not saying, obviously there's, using logic, of course. If you have a 10-second reload, okay, that's ridiculous. But
it's almost like that's weapons training versus, gunfight training.
Yeah. But is it worth spending the amount of time trying to get your reload down to a second and a half when a
Yeah,
3 second
or could
reload
you,
is just fine, doesn't matter.
or could you have spent that time maybe doing some PT? I don't know.
That too.
I mean, there's a lot of really large three gunners. So,
There's a lot
but
of I don't know. That's always made me shake my head whenever I attend a class and there's a guy in there who weighs 350 pounds. It's like, dude.
why are you here?
Yeah,
Right.
like I mean, it's great that you're here seeking training, awesome, but I think you need to go hire a
Yeah,
coach.
you're not going to get to the gunfight. You're not going to make
Yeah,
it to it. You'll
that
be wheezing out.
that dude is just going to take a brisk walk away from you, and you're doomed.
Yeah.
You're gonna
Yeah.
have a heart attack. um, Anything else you want to talk about in terms of range theatrics? Any other stuff that you would like to share? Like, stop doing this because
Uh,
it's silly.
there was one drill where my department was a big fan of it, where you would do suppressive fire, and then one guy would bound forward, and then he would say, set and fire. He's engaging, and the guy would do move, and he would advance. I think conceptually that was a good idea to get the concept out, but then you sit there and go, well, when has this ever been used in law enforcement? Like, when have we
Probably,
suppressed and advanced on a shooter? I'm not saying it can't happen,
yeah.
but
Or
it's
it
good to teach.
hasn't, but I mean, I can't think of one where it's
Right,
been utilized.
right. So, I mean, once again, perhaps we'd be, where are we as cops getting in gunfights? Now, what I see is cops getting in gunfights at thresholds, a lot of thresholds and a lot of vehicles,
Yeah.
right, around vehicles. So rather than doing this bounding overwatch kind of suppressive fire drill, instead of spending an hour doing that, why don't we spend our hour? Let's gut out some cars, get the engines, the transmissions out of there, just gut them so we can push them out, and do some gunfighting around cars, engaging targets using those as cover. Why don't we build some thresholds out of the range and get guys engaging targets through not only the door at the 90, but maybe at that steep angle, that deep angle on your narrow approach to a threshold where, there's a target, there's a shoot target right through that threshold. I'm going to sneak a bullet through there.
A narrow to narrow
That's
engagement.
what we do. Right. Let's focus our training. That's a lot of what I do on my rifle instructor job, is I develop training curriculum around what I actually see officers doing on the street.
Yeah,
So,
I'm a big thing of like, you have drills and stuff, and people try to implement, just for example, search and assessing into their drills, like they're doing whatever ready ups, let's say, and every time they do a ready up, they'll do their little search and assess. It's
yeah,
like,
right.
this is a drill. You're isolate drill. The entire point of a drill is to isolate a certain skill or skills. Right. This isn't a scenario or anything like that. This is ridiculous. I mean, I'm not a fan of doing the whole searching and assessing thing for general range practice, anyways. I just range theatrics.
Yeah, I like it more on defensive tactics. Let's say you get to, you're making an arrest. There's a little bit of a fight. You get the person down on the ground. You get up on their back. Before you go into cuffing, I always take a moment to do those scans, because that's important. Because you'd be surprised how many times a friend is coming running up to assist or whatever. But it's good for you to have your wits about you for what might be going on there.
Yeah, exactly. But you're implementing it into a scenario. It's not
correct.
An isolated skill. Like, after your reload, you're going to search and it's just
correct.
It's like,
correct.
Like, yeah, if you're doing a scenario like that, absolutely, that's where it needs to be placed. And of course, searching and assessing is going to be contextual, although it's generally the same idea, but it's going to be somewhat contextual to what's going on.
I don't want somebody scanning after they shoot somebody.
Yeah.
I want somebody scanning after they shoot somebody, before they shoot somebody, when they first arrive on call, when they get to their new piece of cover. I want them kind of having their head on the swivel the whole time. So if that is what makes them do that, if every time they engage a target, they do a scan, and if that reminds them in the walk and chew bubblegum context to do that every time, then cool, let's do that. But I want you to scan all the time. Okay, it's not just when you put a target down. Another one is follow them down.
Oh yeah, that's another one. It's like, did the target fall down? No. Why are you following it down?
Why do we follow it down? Right. Real world, people get shot. Sometimes they drop, sometimes they run,
they stumble, They do all sorts of weird flailing around. They run
Sometimes they
around for a
drop
few
and
steps
most of
and
them don't die.
stumble, and you know,
Most of them drop and bitch and complain and
yeah.
start complaining about why you shot me. It's always really awkward. All the shootings I've observed, I always find that the moment right after it happens is the most awkward because everything's like suddenly, oh shit, it happened. Okay, it's calm, and then this person who's not dead is bitching.
It's yelling at you.
Right. In the movies, they never bitch. They're always just dead. They go away.
Yeah, yeah.
But in the real world, they're complaining, oh my God, you shot me, call me a squad, help me, blah, 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 whatever.
Mhm.
And that's always kind of an awkward moment where the cops got to go from shooty mode to helpy mode. And
Yeah,
it
yeah.
can be awkward.
Okay, I just shot this dude, but now I need to put a tourniquet on him. This is
Yeah,
awkward.
I witnessed a shooting once where they shot the guy had a shotgun and it was the end of a vehicle pursuit in a stolen car and he ends up running going into this lake and it was I think it was in January. It was really cold here. Definitely sub-zero. So there's ice floating in this lake. I don't know what he was high on meth, so who knows what he was thinking. So sure enough, he comes up with a shotgun and they shoot the shit out of him and he gets peppered and he's sitting there floating. He's done fighting and then he slowly starts sinking. And you can see all the cops that are sitting on the bank of the lake, like all of a sudden they have that realization, oh shit, one of us has to go in there and drag that guy out. We can't just let him drown.
Yeah.
Was,
Why do let's draw straws? I don't want to be cold.
Right. It was just a funny watching them come to that realization. Oh shit.
Does someone have a rope?
Exactly.
So someone got their fishing rod in the back of their truck.
Yeah.
Just so we don't have to go in there.